Hello, everyone. Welcome to Dear Sunga, and this is a space to kind of explore your feminine energy. I am here with the beautiful and lovely Beverly Phillip. She is a mentor, life coach, and there's a lot to say, but I think it would be better for me to have you step in and tell us a little bit more as who is Beverly Phillip?
Thank you for having me. First and foremost, it's an honor and privilege to share this space with you, Nan, and your audience. So I feel like this question is a standard first question, and it's probably one of the hardest questions to answer. At least for me. I don't know about you, but when someone says, tell me about who you are, like, okay, where do I go from here? So I want to acknowledge that because that's how I felt about prepping. But I'll start by this. So Talafalava, Beverly Phillip, you call me Bev. And I'll start by telling a story. Okay, so for a long time, I was on this path, a path of grind, constantly pushing. I was achieving, I was climbing, I was proving, I was killing it, I was grinding. And ultimately, it led me to some amazing milestones. Like I was honored enough to finish my bachelor's degree, moved on to my doctorate degree, worked for a prestigious university, worked for a really large company. And in the midst of all that, all the success, I actually realized and recognized that I was exhausted. I was exhausted. I never felt complete. I felt like I was successful, but I was not soulful. And that was incongruent for me. That was not okay with me. I felt like, am I being honest? Am I being true? Am I being as real as I am with my sisters, my best friends, other women that I'm so close with? Am I being honest? And it took a lot of courage, a lot of crying, to actually say the word no. I wasn't being honest. I wasn't being true. I was getting things done. I was checking the boxes off, like I said, but I wasn't really checking in with myself. And so that was a turning point for me, the day of Sabbath. That's really hard for me. And I started to trust my quieter voice. I leaned on the Holy Spirit a lot, and I allowed him to move me and guide me just as our ancestors did, and with a deep meaning of intention. And so you asked me in the beginning, Nan, who am I? That is a large part of who I am today, is that story. My name is Dr. Beverly Lisa Utulangi Phillip. Like I said, y'all can call me Bev. Boppy is what my family calls me. And actually, my grandmother came up with that name. She couldn't say Bev because she wasn't fluent in English. It was very hard for her to say Beverly. So she called me Boppy. And so I am a child of God. I am proud to be a biracial woman of Samoan and Caucasian descent. I was born in the South Bay in Harbor City. And now I live in the state of Washington. They call it the PNW, Pacific Northwest. Professionally, I serve as a VP of Content and Delivery at Awe Solutions, which is a professional development company. We work with a lot of Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 companies, and it's been a privilege to work there. I've been there for about 4 years. And at the heart of it, I am love, I'm compassion, I'm empathy, I'm fun, I'm courageous, I'm a community builder. I'm someone who deeply believes in the power of representation, especially for our Pacific Islander communities. And so now I focus on creating impact in a way that feels really rooted. I'm more intentional about how I show up in my work, in my community, in my family, how I care for myself. And so alignment for me, it means doing the work that reflects my values and my culture while also leaving room for joy. I really need to leave room for joy, leave room for fun. I know that if I can arrive at this place, I can always find my way back when I get lost. And if I get lost, which happens, it's life. And I can help others find their way and their alignment. And so this is the gift that I offer to the world, a sense of safety, a sense of exploration, a sense of curiosity without any judgment.
That's beautiful. I love your Samoan name. It's Utulangi, right? Yes. Do you know your specific roots? Because I know your aunt actually introduced us, and so I know Ona's from Pango, and it's a bit there. Just a little bit more about you in terms of your Samoan side.
We are from Pago American Samoa. My mom was one of 13, and her younger sister is my Auntie One, who you're just talking about. Shout out to Auntie One. I call her One. Her and my Auntie June raised a lot of us, but I know they were the pillars of my household and my upbringing. They immigrated here, and so I'm first generation American. My mom, when she came, she was, I believe, in high school, and she stayed. She never went back. And so my grandfather, his name's Amua Sulfainga, and then my grandmother is Lemalia Paala. And we are here because of them. And so my mom is Samoan, and she met my dad, who is Caucasian, while working for the county. And so that's where the biracial comes from, the mixed generation comes from. And so it's been a beautiful story since then. We were raised in a Samoan household, meaning that everybody was in grandma's house. Off of Island Block in Carson City, California. It was amazing. We all grew up in the same household. Like I said, my grandparents spoke Samoan. My mom was learning it as English as a second language. And so she had to adjust very quickly for school and then work eventually. A little bit about my mom. Was amazing. I'm the only child biologically, but of course being Samoan means we were raised in a really large household with a lot of cousins. When my grandmother passed away, there were 36 cousins, and I think I was 3. And so since then, there's been so many of us that have just boomed, some of our cousins having kids. And so because of that, I felt like I never truly missed out on our family because it was so full and big. And so it's just been a blast since. Like I said, my Auntie One and Auntie June, they held it down in the house a lot, and they raised a lot of us young ones in my generation. And my mom was gone working all the time. She was working, and then when she wasn't working, she was in the military. So she was busy trying to sustain the life in America. She did it for her parents, she did it for her siblings, and of course she did it for me. So I feel very blessed to grow up in a household that my grandfather also was a co-founder of the First Congregation Church of Samoan Christian Community. There's a really long name, and I'm sure I'm messing that up. But we were the one right by Anchor Liquor store in Carson. Being that my grandfather was a really big part of the church, and my grandmother, Faith, meant everything to us. That was the foundation we had in our household. And so I'm grateful for that. It's part of my upbringing. It's part of my relationship with God. And it looks different for all of us, but it's the pillar of who we are as a family.
That's awesome. I was just thinking of Ona and June because they are just amazing. I don't say that lightly. But then this comes to this question because growing up, there's times where I don't know if I want to be around other women just because it feels so catty. But I got invited to a networking event, and it was the first time that I ever felt like, oh my gosh, what a wonderful place to be surrounded by women that are just kind of there supporting each other. And so I think that's where Dear Sunga comes in. And I just have to say, like, One and June are so amazing, and they just the vibe. It's always like they're there. They're very caring, and even though I'm not related, they're just like, oh, let's do lunch and let's get to know you a little bit more. And she just kind of takes you in, and it's so nice that you actually have those type of role models in your life.
Thank you.
I was curious because my experience is a little bit different from yours. For me, I've learned that at a later age how beautiful it is to have a connection with different women who are just very positive and uplifting. And, the work that you do centers
Yes.
around women. And so I'm curious to know why be very specific with just working with women?
Yes. So I love this question. And I just want to say back to what you're saying about Auntie Ona and Auntie June. Once you know them, you're forever with them. Okay. So this is true for friends that I have now, friends that I used to have that I'm not really friends with now. They're still in connection with them. So you are always welcome. You will always have a seat at our house, no matter whose house it is. But I wanted to say that when I say I'm a community builder, a lot of that is because I watched, I observed, I saw how they always brought people in, no matter who it was or how long it was for. That was modeled for me I'm very honored that that was my experience. Because as you said, Nan, it started at an early age. So that is a lot of the inspiration about why I'm focused on women. And so there was a point in time, I mentioned this earlier when I was talking a little bit about who I am. There's a point in time where I'm like, something feels off for me at work. And I'm not sure what it was, but I knew I wasn't happy. And so I did some coaching and I did some exploration. And what I found was that the things that I was really skilled at doing, that I went to school for a long time for, I was making some pretty decent money to do. I did not enjoy them. Okay. And so the work that I've done working for a strengths-based company and the research that I followed, I know there's got to be two things to be true. One thing is your skill set. So you've got to have the skill set to do something. And the other thing is your energy around it. It's got to have some positive energy. You've got to be gravitated towards it. And so what I realized when I was feeling funky at work is I had the skill set, but my energy was womp womp. I was not there. My energy was depleted. I didn't feel great. And so I sat on this not knowing what to do with it because I didn't want to just jump. I didn't want to jump and leave a company. I really wanted to have some clarity. So I turned to God and I prayed, what is this, Lord? Something is pulling at my heart and I need you. And I prayed so hard. Give me the clarity, give me the guidance, give me the obedience to listen and follow what you're saying. And so I heard in the year I sat on this, like this internal struggle, I heard him speak to me 3 times through prayer. And what I heard and felt was to be with those women. Be with those women. That was never in my peripheral in prior years. And at this point, I'm like well into my career. That was never a story. It was never even a focus. I thought I was going to help young student athletes. That's what I always thought. I'm going to work towards working with young student athletes. I'm going to help them find their life after college. I was really geared towards that for a while. And so when I heard God say to be with those women, I was like, don't know what this is about. And so I said, okay, I sat with it and then I heard it again. And then again, I heard it once on the elliptical and I was like, okay, something is here. And so I came to a decision. Thank the good Lord for my husband. Shout out to Mark Phillip. He supported me through all of this. And then he said, listen, if you want to leave because you feel like that's just in your heart, I'll support you. And that is what led me to say, I got to go. I got to be with those women. And that in itself, people would say, okay, so you're leaving the company? And I said, yeah. Where are you going? I don't know. I'm going to be with those women. That's what my prayer is about. And if I can bottle that and put it on the shelf of a store that's like, gotcha, people looked at me like, gotcha, what are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about? Be with those women. I had no idea. But it was a strong calling. Then it's just coincidentally, at the same time of me exploring what that means, a sense for work, I was doing a lot of healing and coaching and therapy. And I did a lot of exploration about my relationship with my mom because she had
Mm.
passed in January of 2016. And that was hard for me. And so I went to therapy and I worked on my inner voice, a lot of pain, a lot of unanswered questions, a lot of what ifs. Those are the things that I worked through that, that was hard. This is the hard conversations. They were the hard ones. And I think they were the hardest because I didn't have the person to give me the answer. That was hard.
You're seeing this, and it just, it's something I struggle with personally because I lost my mom as well. When she was alive, she was my safety net, so I was felt like I could always explore when I can. Now I feel like she's a constant voice in my head that even if she's not there, I'm like, oh my gosh, she told me she's going to be that voice, and I feel it right now.
Yes.
I've been very fortunate to and very blessed to have an amazing relationship with my mom. And so
Mm.
there's a good and the bad, there's childhood
Yes.
trauma that comes with it.
Of
Not everything's
course.
good, right?
Yes. Yes.
I thank you for sharing that. I could feel that. So sorry. I didn't mean to.
Yeah, no, don't be sorry. Don't be sorry. It's connection. It's how we connect as humans. And I'm sorry for your loss, none. And it's you can either sulk in it, which I don't have time to sit and sulk. I can be sad. Absolutely can be sad. And I also have to find the joy and the light and the energy of life around me as well. And as I like to say, keep it pushing. But I bring my mom's legacy with me. I bring the unanswered questions with me. I heal. And that's a large part of what bring me to work with women, is because when I think about my relationship with my mom, how complex it was, I think about how my mom was in America after immigrating from another country. I think about her mom. There's a lot of healing that I would have loved to bring to those women. And so I do that by serving other women. And also I pour into other women how I would want to be poured into as well. And so it's reciprocated. It's reciprocated.
That's like what I want for Dear Suna so much. It's just to like be a space where we can all kind of share. I want to talk more in terms of your expertise. So
Yeah.
for women who probably are going through something at the moment, what are some questions that they should be asking themselves? Because I'm just thinking not everyone is going to have access to a coach, like,
Right.
right?
Right.
So,
Unfortunately.
and I'm sure people are trying to also kind of navigate through it. There's so much going on, even in social media, all that information. If someone was tuning in today wanting to hear something and not like trying to figure that out for themselves, what does that look like?
That's a great question. I'm actually reading this book right now called How to Do the Work by Dr. LaPera. It's an incredible book. I've read a lot of different self-development books. She's a psychologist and a holistic psychologist. So she looks at the mind, body, and spirit all as interconnected. So the first thing I would say, if you don't have access to a coach, first of all, let's chat, because I'm always willing to support however I can, especially for women. But try to pick up a book like that one, How to Do the Work. The thing that you can control that all of us have access to is to go outside. That's the first thing I will say, is to take your body and walk outside. And we have to move our body outside because it's God's country out there. It's God's country. What is in nature is incredibly healing for the soul. And I had no idea. I had no idea. But the more I was outside, the more I started to feel connected to my younger self. I love to be outside. I would be outside all day with my cousins, waiting for the corn man to walk by, waiting for the cotton candy man to walk by. You know, these guys who would sell and ring the bells. I would be outside all day. We even slept outside thinking we were camping, but we were actually under the roof of the Jeep of a car of our uncles we got in trouble for. It's just outside. It's outside. It was so nice. And so when I go outside today, first of all, I have to work at it because there's a lot of things to do as a woman, as a full-time professional, as a coach, as a mom of two young people, as a wife. There's so much to do all the time. So I have to intentionally tell myself, self, you're going outside 3 times within the day. And so that's the first thing I would say, is to go outside and take some deep breaths, because that's really important too. And then asking yourself, being curious about yourself. How am I feeling right now? Am I feeling like I'm in a hurry? Am I feeling stuck? Am I feeling exhausted? I would also ask, how is what I'm doing aligned to my values? What does that look like? What I'm doing with work, what I'm doing with life, does that align to my personal values? If you don't know where your personal values is, you start there. What do I value in life? Is it love? Is it humanity, friendship? Is it faith? Brene Brown, which I'm sure a lot of people know, I got a huge girl crush on her. She wrote Dare to Lead. She has a page in there that's all about values. And so you can start there. You can also look at her website because she's got a PDF of that. Start there. Identify what your values are. And when you identify what your values are, you can use them as your compass. So am I doing something for work that aligns with my values? What is missing that that I feel like connected to with my values, but I'm not really seeing it in my life right now? Who is around me that can support me and encourage me and grow in this value? So I think values is great work. I do it a lot with my coaching clients, and also honoring that our values shift from season to season based on what we have going on. But that's another starting point, is start with your values. What do you value in life? And there's no right or wrong. Like, even for me, my values, they are mine. And I love Antione. I love Auntie June, but my values are going to be different than theirs, even though they raised me. It's because the season of life I'm in and the day to day I'm in, it's just different. And being okay with that is really important. And being okay with our differences is especially as a Samoan woman. We are collectivistic. Yeah.
You bring up a good point. There's times where there feels like pressure of contributing to our family, be with our family, which is always a beautiful thing in our culture. I think sometimes we do get lost in finding who we are because we're always looking to take care of other people and not necessarily also kind of looking to grow. I do believe in that saying, fill your
Yes.
cup and let it overflow.
Yes.
I think the overflow, it's more of like once you can be more whole, you're able to give more to people. You can't be drinking from a cup that's empty or low.
No, no. No, you'll be thirsty as heck. You'll be quenched. You have nothing to fill your body with or your mind or your spirit. I really understood that after I took a strengths assessment. I love assessments. It's part of school for me is assessments galore.
It's your
And there's a
analytical brain.
it is my analytical brain. I got to calm it down sometimes. That's why I said to be in your body because we're in our heads too much. But one of the strengths assessments I took, it had categorized me as someone who provides a lot for others, which I hands down do. In fact, my Etiona is also the same. She's a provider, is her first. That's no surprise there. But as we provide for others again and again and again and again, what happens is we just feel exhausted and depleted. So they say that think of yourself on the airplane. I'm sure many of us are flying around, and they say if you're with a small child, please put your oxygen mask on first before putting that on a child. It's because if we were to try to do their mask first without oxygen for ourselves, we could die. I mean, not to sound morbid, but we wouldn't have anything to give to put it onto them. It on ourselves. We have to put the mask on ourselves. It's the same as taking care of ourselves first so that we can take care of others. Not in a way where it's like, put me off in an island. I'm about to live on my own, do me. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about coexisting with a unit in a way that helps you help them. I don't know if that makes sense, but in my brain it does.
Does. I was just thinking because I've gone through different phases in my own life. There was a point where I'm like, okay, I'm going to shut everyone out. And then I'm just going to just be centered, just me. But then it wasn't fulfilling at all, and it's so interesting because even when COVID happened, I thought, "Oh, I'm gonna be fine. I'm gonna be okay." I actually miss interacting with people that I just never
Yes.
realized. There's joy in it, just having to help someone else.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
there's a sense of fulfillment when you're there to help someone.
Oh, it makes a ton of sense to me. No, I'm with you. It's like I'm going to help someone. I'm going to be a support. I think that's a really large part of the Polynesian culture is just helping other people however we can. I just have learned when I help others without paying attention to this, to me, that I miss the mark big time. And so in most recent years, my prayer has been, God, show me how to be of service to others by being a service to myself first. So if I'm not getting fueled by the things that make me, my meditation, my quietness, my journaling, my prayer, if I'm not doing my non-negotiables, then I show up as an empty vessel. And that's not the true Bev. That's not me. And so if I want to bring all the gifts that God has blessed me with in the past into where I go in the future, I really need to make sure that I'm coming from this rested space, from a place of, like you said, my cup is full so that I can pour that into others with a clear soul, a full and clear soul.
I appreciate that. You said non-negotiables, and I'm thinking, I don't think I've ever really thought to myself, what are my non-negotiables? I think that's a cool tip when you were talking about sit down with yourself and see what it is. And I love that in terms of what is your non-negotiables?
Yes, that's another good question to ask. You asked earlier, what can someone reflect on? What are my non-negotiables? And I'll tell you what, that is really based around work and boundaries. What are my boundaries? And boundaries are to protect yourself, not so that you can say, oh, you crossed a boundary, you better go the other way. It's really about yourself, being accountable for yourself. What are the boundaries that help protect you? And so non-negotiables really come from your boundaries. So just for example, when my kids were younger, maybe like 2 or 3, I realized how important my morning time was for me. And that was a non-negotiable, is to skip that and go into mom mode. That was not going to work for me. So I called it my quiet time. And then my oldest Mata, he would start joining me. Yeah. So he would bring his little kid Bible, not knowing what I was doing. And he'll try to talk to me. And I would say, it's quiet time. And so I think like the more that you can practice these things for yourself and with the people that you live with, the more they understand how much that's a value of yours. And it becomes a non-negotiable because you feel like if you go through the day without that thing, that is going to be hard. It's a hard day for you. If I were to go through the day without water, that's very hard for me. Water is a non-negotiable. So think of those things that keep you feeling fulfilled as a non-negotiable.
That's actually pretty good. You work a lot with women executives. And so I was just curious, like, what are some common themes? When I think of someone who's in the executive leadership, she's got it all down. Her life is good. And I'm like, why would she need a coach if her life is good? Every woman struggles, but I'm curious as to what you see as something that, that you generally mostly help women with. And maybe that's something that you could share and maybe help someone out there.
Of course, I'm happy to say that. I've thought about who I've coached recently in the last 5 years or so, and they have been women who they're very successful, first of all. They're successful and they know what they're doing in the moment, but they actually don't know what they want. So a lot of the women come when they're feeling stuck. Like it just feels like it's a Groundhog's Day, like it's a rinse and repeat for me. And I'm not sure what's happening. It's women who feel they've been in their career for a long time, but they just are losing their secret sauce or losing themselves in the process. It's women who feel like their voice is not being heard at work or at home. There's a point in time where I had research. I did what I call market research, and I interviewed a lot of coaches' wives because I'm also a coach's wife. My husband's a coach, not the coach that you and I are talking about. He's a football coach. So in that, am exposed to a lot of women who are supporting their partner who are also coaches. So I spent a while interviewing these women, and I would ask them questions like, who are you? What are you looking forward to? What is missing for you in life? And a lot of those themes that came from those interviews is that the women feel like they are not being heard, or they feel like they're lost and not really sure how to tell their story or their needs or their wants with their partner. So that was across the board. We're talking about all kinds of industries of coaching. But again, if you think about women who are partners to these coaches, they're doing a lot of the work on their own. They're moving a lot. So they're not with their family. They go where the job is, which is where the team is. And it was fascinating to me to see that the number one commonality is what like binds us all, which is I feel like I'm not living to my true potential. I feel like I'm just supporting, but I'm not really sure who I am in the process. I'm not really sure, or I lost myself in the process, or I don't know how to ground my feet when there's so much movement in our industry. And so that actually is a lot of what I see in other women too that are not even coaches' wives is who am I? Where am I going? All of a sudden I look up and I'm like, life just happened to me. What do I want in life? They're coming with those questions. And again, they're successful. It's not that they're not successful. But remember, Nan, what I shared in the beginning is I have been to success. I'm a hyperachiever. And so success, I know what it looks like, but I know what it can also feel like if I'm hustling outside of that. And that's what a lot of women come to me for is they're exhausted. I'm tired. I'm getting the job done, but I'm really tired. Or I don't want to live another 12 months like this. And that's what they would come to me for. So a lot of the work is around confidence. It's around finding the inner strength. I like to say the inner game. What's the inner game that you're playing right now? Are you being true to yourself? There's a lot of healing and grief in that. I think our society is changing a lot in the most recent years. So it's grieving what was even before COVID happened, grieving the life before COVID. And so those are some of the things that they come to me for, and we partner together. I have the honor to partner with them as a coach. And coaching is about, I love coaching because I don't have to have all the answers. I don't even have to live the same life as you. I don't have to be the same ethnicity, gender, race, class. I don't have to have any of those in common with you. But I have these skills that allow me to open the door of curiosity for you so we can peel things back like an onion. We are peeling one layer at a time so that we can get to your core in the middle of the layers and figure out, what is that for you? Who is she? Who are they? Who is he? So it's really peeling back the layers to see who someone is at their core. And that is what I can bring, is the act of listening, the power of being present, powerful questions being asked. And again, I don't have to have your answers, because that's what coaching is about, is helping someone find their own answers.
A lot of thoughts that come to mind. You and I actually had recorded something last week, but it became more of a personal conversation around, what's happening in my own world. And so I the whole analogy of peeling the onion. And so I think one of the things that scares me about coaching is that I'm scared to learn that there might be something that I'm not going to be happy to know about myself.
Yeah,
So, because
yeah.
when I think of onions too, I'm just like, onion doesn't smell so good either.
I agree with you, girl, because I do not like onions. I
But,
do not like them.
phase of trying to find myself and learn a little bit myself, and it isn't pretty at times, I'm gonna be honest with you. I feel like sometimes I'm like, is that really my personality? And is that really what I want to show to people and be to people? And
Yeah.
so, um, yeah, I don't know who might be out there and just be like, oh, there might be some fear of having to actually meet with a coach.
Yes, there is fear. There is fear. But there's a question to be asked, or to ask yourself. And the question is, what is worse? Is it worse if I live in this fear of unpacking or revealing something true to myself? Or is it worse to stay in this bubble where I'm not sure what's underneath, but I am fine to show up how other people expect me to show up? And there's a difference here. There's one that's like who you are, your gift to this world, what your soul is all about, versus suppressing that for the sake and the comfort of other people.
Yeah.
Which one is it? And yeah, it's fear. I hate that we have fear, but it's a human emotion as well, right? It tells us something. I remember when I was going through my coaching certification, and it was right out of grad school. And so when my company said, we're offering a certification in coaching, would you want to participate? And I was like, okay, sure. So I was a participant. So glad they chose to me. But I remember the first day I was expecting, all right, I'm about to get my outline. I'm going to get the framework to coach. They're going to say, Bev, ABC, this is the theory. This is the research. I was expecting that. And first day off the bat, they bring someone to the front of the room and they demonstrate what coaching is like. And they demonstrated coaching with a former boss of mine. And she was crying, like right away she was crying. And I was like, oh gosh, I started to get sweaty. Like, I'm feeling uncomfortable right now. This is supposed to be work. This is my first job out of grad school. This is work. Like, we are all in our work attire. Like, what are you doing crying? Nuh-uh. And then the conversation, she mentioned my name. And she was getting real-time coaching about me, but it was about her leadership within me. It just felt so uncomfortable. It felt like so raw of an emotion. Again, in my mind, I was like, this is work. We show up with our nice attire and we button it up. That's my perception of work. And so when she was crying and she talked about me, I just thought that was so vulnerable and it made me uncomfortable. So I left the room with my friend and I said, what was that? I said, I don't know. And I was like, where is the framework? Like, we're supposed to be like talking about coaching. They should teach us how to coach. Like, what's the framework? What's the research? And she said, I don't know, Bev, but you know what? We can't stop here because we started. And so we kept going through the process, really unfamiliar process, really unfamiliar, very, very sweaty for me because it was about me as well. I would be coached. I would coach others. I would like trip over my words. People would ask me questions and I'm thinking that's personal. Again, I had this really strong perception of work and then this other vulnerable self, which doesn't belong in work. And what I discovered is that through the act of coaching, that you are you. So it's not that I come to work and I show up as a Bev work versus how I am at home. There might be slight nuances that are different. I'm more relaxed. But at the end of the coaching certification, I learned about being authentic to me meant being authentic at work and at home. Who am I? What are my thoughts? What do I have to offer? And that's what coaching did. It was so uncomfortable now. Like you were saying, I was scared. Like we don't cry in work. That's my thought. Is like we don't cry in work. This is like I have a doctorate. I got to show up. Pop. That was my thought process. So it was so uncomfortable. I hands down best decision I ever made is to go through the program. That's where I was coached by some really experienced tenured coaches, like very powerful coaches. I cried every session. I went through the loss of my mom while I was in coaching. It was so powerful. I never expected it, yet it was the thing that my heart needed that. When I said it was so full, I truly mean that. It was so full for me. Never, ever could I imagine myself in this life how I am if it weren't for coaching. So I believe everyone deserves it. I really believe everyone deserves it. Just the space, unbiased space, explore thoughts, explore perceptions, no judgment. Like I said earlier, I truly mean that because your story is your story. Who am I to say if it's right or wrong? Who is anyone to say that's right or wrong? Even our elders, because it's what we know is true is our story. It's what happened to us. And that is very powerful. That is a keepsake. That is something we should hold very tenderly for ourselves.
Yes, I totally agree with you. And the reason why I brought it up earlier is just because feel the difference having to sit down and just have a conversation. But I think those are like the preconception of when that's the reason why people don't take action and actually sit with a coach to talk, right? In terms, there's always this fear there. And what's interesting what you just said today, because sometimes I'll sit with my boss and I'm like, he's trying to go there, wants me to be vulnerable. It's like, this is not a time to be vulnerable right
No,
now.
yeah.
But then I also think it has to do with my upbringing. I mean, this goes back, like, I'm thinking about my mom. She's like, you're very soft. So, don't cry. I think we as
Yeah.
someone is, okay, Kagi, don't cry. You know,
Yeah.
that's what we grew up doing. Like, why are you crying? There's no need for you to cry, right?
Like White
That's,
Sunday on the
yeah.
stage. Yes. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So, yeah,
Yes.
I'm just thinking of that.
Yeah, you're so right. And Auntie June once said, because I was crying in her kitchen one of the many times I was crying in her kitchen, and she said, "Poppy, you just wear your heart on your sleeve." And like some part of me is like, okay, that's who I am. I'll accept it. And the other part of me is like, come on, toughen up, Viv. Don't let them see you crack. But I got to be honest, Nan, I don't see myself in any other way. I work for a company full time. I'm the VP and I lead a team and I still cry. It's because I can't, that's a part of me. That's a part of who I am. And it's a part of how I'm feeling in that moment. And so I can't suppress that. I can't, if I try to hide, I can do better to regulate emotions. I absolutely could. But also, you got to ask yourself, is this a part of how I'm expressing what I'm going to say? Is that how I get it out? Or is there another way to get it out that feels right for me? But you're right. It's just that expectation to not let them see you crack is so real. It's ingrained in us. And yet there's a point where it's just like, I'm surrendering. I can't keep wearing the tough shell. Like I can't. I have another auntie because there's a lot of them out there. Auntie Bebe, rest in peace, Auntie Bebe. She was hard. She was the auntie you don't play. You zip it and you sit there with your hands in your lap. And so she was a tough cookie at work. A lot of my relatives work for probation. And so I felt like that also reinforced the strictness that
Yeah.
was behind their demeanor. And so she worked for probation, and she was the one that was known at in her office that new does not play. That's her name. New does not play. And so I would physically see at a very young age people that are timid that don't want to walk in her office because of her presence. She had a really big presence. And so if you think about being raised by women like that, it is hard to be vulnerable. It's this internal battle. Like, do I got to pull the new in me, or is it okay to show Bev a little bit? But it's again, it's what makes us uniquely us, right? And so I think I'm at a point in life where like I find it very hard to suppress what I feel because it impacts a lot of my presence, my being, my face, what you can read on my face. It's just hard to hide it. And so eventually I'm going to say it. And sometimes it's messy through tears. That's just, it's how I am.
Yeah. This
Yeah.
is such a great conversation because I honestly feel I can relate to this, and that's something that I can't say that I'm fully healed from. That's still that part of me that I'm still kind of growing and learning from.
Of course. Yeah.
I wanted to go back into coaching because you're very specific in terms of who you actually want to work with. And this kind of goes
Yeah.
into the conversation we're talking about in terms of women of color. You're very specific about working with coaching with women of color. Why? What's the difference between us and any other woman? I have great
Yeah.
people that I know, they're white, they're awesome. I love everything that they share with me. But why be very specific working with women of color?
So this is a lot based on the roots I have with the healing that I did with my mom, the relationship I had with my mom. So I have two parents, praise God. I have my dad and my mom. My dad is, his name is Dave. He is the best of the best. He really was supportive. He was so involved. My parents divorced when I was 2. And so I lived in 2 different households by 2 different parents, 2 different cultures. So my dad was a strong pillar and a foundation, and he still is to this day. I talk to him multiple times a day. Dad, what are you doing? Dad, what are you doing now? What are you doing now? So I'm really close with my dad. But I focused a lot of my healing on my mom again because of how much she meant to me, yet how hard that relationship was for me. It wasn't easy. And I know a lot of the hardship is because of her upbringing and how she was, how she lived her life, maybe some unspoken truths. And so I know a lot of that is rooted about her being a woman, immigrating to this country with parents who are no longer in this world at the time she was raising me. So it's just where I spent a lot of my journey talking about, exploring, healing from not feeling loved in certain capacities. And so through that journey of exploration is just, I realized that this is not just my mom. It's an outcome of a lot of women who immigrate to this country, who are from different walks of life from different countries. And so that is important to me because I feel like like I said earlier, I'm pouring into my mom, into my aunties, into my stepmom, into my grandmother, my great grandmother. I'm pouring into these women in the way that I wish somebody had poured into them at the time that they needed it the most. It is because I see a gap. I see a really big gap. I'm privileged. I am born American. I am also biracial. I'm Caucasian. I have privileges. And so for me, it's about, hey, God, tell me how I can use these privileges to serve those that are underprivileged. Help me bless others that don't have the blessings that I've had yet. How can I use these things like my education? How can I use these blessings that I've received so that I can pour into those who are lost? That means a lot to me, and that's where I want to focus my energy. Now, does it mean I say no to men? No, because I've coached men as well. But when I coach men, it's with this perspective that I had, which is, how are you going to help as an ally? How are you going to help us out? What can you do? Also, what are you doing that works well or doesn't work well that I might help others empathize, especially with myself?
Yeah.
Like, how can I learn from you? It's just my primary focus has been with women for a while. And I got to be very candid with you. That was new for, I shared this with you earlier. That was kind of new territory when God said to be with those women. I had some of my closest cousins are men, and I was raised with a lot of boys. My dad, like I said, my dad, I went to school with full time, and he was out there. He's a guy's guy. He's with the men. He took me to work, and I was surrounded by men, and that masculine energy.
Yeah.
I always felt like it flowed from me, and it felt like sticky when I would tough, sticky when it would come to women. And so that is the healing that I was opening up my heart around, is how do I be vulnerable with myself? How do I be vulnerable with other women? How do I help other women? And so that, again, I would not have gotten there if it wasn't through prayer. I really wouldn't have gotten there by myself.
What I'm hearing from you is basically it has to do a lot with the experience that you've gone through with your mom, hence the reason for it. But something interesting too that you just said, and it's helping men. I think, especially now, I feel like there's a space for men. Like, I think it's easy for women to talk about things, men do. And so that's a whole topic of itself. But that's wonderful to hear because sometimes we brand ourselves so much like I'm here as a woman, but sometimes life can actually take us into different spaces. And it sounds like that is the next iteration of your journey, sounds like.
Yeah, I like a good challenge. And so I like to explore the challenge. And for me, years ago, it was that relationship I had with my mom is like, what is this? Why do I feel these things? Like, why do I strive for success all the time? Why am I why does it feel so complex? And so that was a big challenge for me at that time years ago. And then I honestly feel like I have the utmost sense of peace with the relationship I had with my mom. And that is important to me, to sustain the peace and maybe even grow it to be a bigger sense of peace. But that was the hardship I had. But that being said, I do want to recognize that my Auntie Gina, Auntie One, large part of my upbringing, because they raised me. I was home with them. But that's not what my coaching or healing, it's the gratitude that I have them, but it's not so much the challenge. My challenge was with my mom. That's my own thing, though. It's not because of who she was at all. It's because of how I am in relation to my mom.
Got
And
it.
that's where I stayed. And so that has a huge impact in me continuing to bring this forth with other women, is because I know how hard it was for me, and I want to help other women as well. And like you just said, broaden the scope. It's probably other people as well, other genders as well. I've been fortunate to work and partner with a lot of people from different parts of the globe. And so I'm fascinated at learning about culture in Singapore, in India, in Latin America, and all these different parts of the globe that are just so fascinating to me, in the aspect of how those women are, or how life is, even children, how children are in those places. So I'm exploring right now, to be honest. I'm curious.
Always something important. I think as I get older, I mean, as I grow wiser,
There
in
you
terms
go. I love that flip. I love that flip. Good for you, girl. Yes.
in terms of that, there's always a sense of, oh, is my life ending? But then there's things in me that goes like, I think my life's just beginning. And I think it has to do a lot with the work that, trying to like reflect and, definitely look in and just kind of like, why am I the way I am? And how, like, yeah. And so, yeah, it's good that you shared that.
Yeah.
You kind of pivot a lot, but one thing that I wanted to talk a little bit more was your degree is in industrial organizational psychology. To bring it back, all these things that you've done so far in the space you've been, that degree you had, it's an interesting field. Ever since I went to school, say, oh, I'm majoring in psychology, and I majored in educational psychology, but I'm like learning a little bit. Oh, there's another field called organizational psychology. Do you mind if
Yes. I'm happy to. So, first of all, try to say that fast 10 times. Industrial and organizational psychology, I die. It's a lot of people will shorten it by saying organizational development. But basically, what it is I study human behavior in the workplace. And so, what does it mean to have strong performance? What does it mean to have engagement? What does it mean to be committed to your company? What are the team dynamics? What's leader development like? I was fascinated. Look at this system the system is AKA the world of work, and also what is the individual person's relation to the system. And that's where the psychology comes in. So I studied human behavior in the world of work. And I love that. That's why I'm doing it in a specificity of learning and development right now. So I oversee the learning and development, which is creating participant experiences so that they can not just take a training for the sake of training, but learn something new, reflect on what this means for me, and try something different. So that's learning and development. I've been in that field for quite a while now. And so when you think about organizational psychology I had finished my bachelor's degree and I was at a fork in the road. What way do you want to go, Bev? And I knew I wanted to continue school. So that wasn't the fork in the road. The fork in the road was, what kind of school? Do you want to do clinical psychology or do you want to do business psychology? And I think my glimpse that I told you earlier about how uncomfortable I was with coaching, I was like, we're not going feelings. We are going the safe route. So I went to business psychology and I had a blast. I learned about motivation, extrinsic, intrinsic. I learned about research. I learned about data analytics. I learned about so much out there in this world of work. And then the career path was endless. You can do internal consulting where you are a subject matter expert of a specific thing. So I was the subject matter expert for performance management. I was also a subject matter expert for new management development. So new managers who are new to their role, creating a program for them to complete so that they can have the skills they needed to lead a team. I was a subject matter expert for content development at a company. So you have so many different avenues you can take in organizational development. And I think it's marvelous. I even tapped on coaching for almost 8 years now. I've been coaching for about 8 years. And so when I think about coaching, that is another avenue of OD, of org development. And so I think it's an amazing opportunity and it's never the same. So like how we are in society in the world of work today looks very different than where we were 5 years ago. One prime example is the world that we live in with AI, artificial intelligence. How does that play into the world of work? And that to me is fascinating. HR is using AI for recruitment, retention. OD is using AI for coaches use AI. They help consolidate notes. They help pull themes. They help ask powerful questions that will get to the root of a cause of a problem, the root cause of a problem. AI is booming. And I went to a conference, TD, Association of Training and Development. I went to that last year, and that was the theme of every single vendor. Every single vendor was how we're using AI in the world of training and development. And so that didn't exist like 5, 7, 8 years ago. Maybe it did exist, but I didn't know about it. It wasn't really out there. And so I just love how it changes, because something about me is that I get very bored when it's rinse and repeat. So I like the change. I like the newness. I like the shift. And that's what I love about this field of OD. It's incredible. You can, like I said, you can do so many things. I have taught. I've been a professor for master's classes, PhD courses. I've sat on dissertation chairs. I've been an internal consultant, an external consultant, then honed in on learning and development, then pivoted to coaching. It's amazing because you can go anywhere. I like a variety of things. And that's what OD allows me to do, is to play in different fields.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
When we're talking about AI, in terms of like, lately I've just been in this space of building my social media presence and all that stuff,
Yeah.
And I guess with all these things in terms of technology, how do we ground ourselves considering all of this happening around us? And it's like this thing of, I gotta keep up. I gotta make sure that I'm there. I got the skills. We talked about
Yeah.
skills earlier, the importance of
Yeah.
having those skills. And then at
Yeah.
the same time, this, how do I get to be me and just kind of recentering it? Because I'm just like even now, I'm like doing all this stuff for TikTok. I'm like, what am I doing with my life? Too over this, but I'm enjoying it at the same time. Um,
Yes.
but you know, but it's like, how do you keep up and then at the same time just kind of like get back and be centered? What's
Be
the
sent. Yes, such a good question. I have a love-hate relationship with social media. First of all, I'm unplugged. I really am unplugged. So I stop on Instagram. because I found myself scrolling, like they say, is doom scrolling, or I was finding myself mindlessly just picking up my phone and pushing the Instagram box. Mindlessly. It's so crazy how quick it happens.
Mhm.
Just pick it up, boom, I'm there. So I did not like that about me at all because I was thinking, well, at the end of the day, I'm like, where did this day go? Any free time I had was wasted scrolling and just filling up space. So I really had to take a beat and I disassociated myself with social media. Now, there is beauty around it. There's beauty with technology, which is to advance something, right? Whether it's to connect with people back home in Samoa, to message them on Messenger. Yeah, to learn what's happening right now. It's so crazy because we're in two
Yeah.
different states.
Hmm.
And I also think this is where boundaries come in, is like, what are your boundaries around these instruments, these modalities, the technologies? So I was where you are in terms of creating a social media presence, and I got really tired of it really quick. It just wasn't for me. I didn't find any joy in it. I wasn't having fun. And that's the big indicator where I'm like, it's something's off.
Yeah.
Something is off when you're not having fun. You said you enjoy it. So maybe there, yeah. By the
I
way,
did not think about that.
I saw some of your videos on Facebook. Oh my gosh, it's so good. You're such a good dancer. I'm like, excuse me, where's this talent coming from? It's just all these different talents. But you're having fun. You're having fun. Yeah. And it's a creative outlet for a lot of people. My sister, shout out, Honestine, that's what she does for work day in and day out in social media. And she herself has to draw some boundaries for her limitations of being on it or strategizing around it. So I just feel whatever works for you. And for me in this season of life, it's like, nope, not working for me. And you know what's so crazy? Since I got off of Instagram, I've read way more fiction books. I know I am watching like movies. Like, whoa, I forgot I love to watch movies. I am walking way more. My other sister Lisa and I, we do walk and talks all the time. And so I
I
walk
love
and I pick
that.
up the phone. Yeah, walk and talk. It's just, I feel like I'm connecting with either myself more or others in a more meaningful way than I was able to on social media. So I honestly think it's your season of life. And I also recognize that a lot of companies and businesses, entrepreneurs are marketing themselves on social media. So it's almost like, how can I do this and have balance? How can I have a strategy around it? Could I be disciplined to pick up, post, and get off? Just
Yeah.
for example, could I have the discipline to read my comments and check in with my followers and then get off?
Yeah.
Or even 20 minutes, whatever, 20 minutes on social and then get off. So I think that's what it comes down to is what is the season you're in? What are you using it for? And be
Yeah.
very clear about that. If it's a creative outlet, then you do you, boo. Create your stuff and put it out there. But I just think it's really important to think about that and be intentional about it.
Yeah. What I'm loving so far is because I think a lot of people be like, I never would have thought you would have done that. So it's really sort of me putting myself out there a little bit more. But I also love connecting with women. Like I'm trying to like meet women and go, oh, this is so awesome. And I'm always so amazed at just how many women are out there just kind of like trying to get stuff going, just doing something for themselves. And
Yes.
there's a difference there. And so it's like, oh, it's so beautiful to see that. It's not just like mindlessly, but they're like trying to grow their TikTok account because they need to get on the TikTok shop or something. And
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and I'm always amazed. I'm like, I'm here. I don't have kids. I'm pretty much on my own. I don't know how you're balancing to create social media and have children and all that in between.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's commendable. I want to say though, so you're amazing too, because although you don't have the kids, good for you, girl. Although you don't have the kids yet, we'll just say
We always
yet, who
want what we
knows?
don't have, right?
That's right. That's right. And acknowledge the things that you're doing also requires a lot of courage and compassion for yourself. And
Thank you.
so that you're doing a lot yourself. Like I said, I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that this was an avenue of content that Non was doing. Hello, that's amazing. So find the energy in it, the spirit that you bring to it, and keep doing it. Because as long as it matters, makes sense for you, I think that's all that we can ground our truth on.
Thank you. before we end our session is like one of
Yes.
the takeaways from I had with you here is for sure non-negotiables. That's the theme for me throughout the whole conversation so far because you're like, are you going to put boundaries on it? Are you going to do this? And I think one of the things that I'm constantly going to be asking myself is what
Mm,
are my non-negotiables? What are the
yeah,
things that I know that I need to get done in order to move forward? Those are my priorities, and everything else kind of just falls in between. Well, not
that's
hopefully
right.
not that.
But they don't become the priority. They don't become the thing that gets all of your energy, right? Yeah, there's we still got to make dinner. We still got to clean up the house. But will they be getting done first? Will they require all my energy? No, the non-negotiables require my first and foremost attention.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time today just to spend it with me. If anyone's out there and you want to kind of explore, I highly encourage you to connect with Beverly. Maybe you could tell a little bit of where they could find you since you're not on social media. How would they be able to find you?
Okay, well, first of all, if you ever come to Washington, you have to say hello. Go Seahawks. Let's go. This is the season. This is the season. We're going to the Super Bowl. Please reach out to me if you're ever in the state of
How did you
Washington.
become a Seahawks fan? You're from California.
I know. I know. I like to say I'm temporarily living here, but it's just been going on 7 years. No big deal. So you can email me, Beverly at beverlyphillip.com, or go to my website because there's also contact me on the website. It's beverlyphillip.com. And I'm happy to connect there or just ask Nan and Nan will connect us. I'm sure she would. But I'm happy to serve and support however I'm able to. I do want to acknowledge that the month of May is AAPI month. And so I will say, if you are a Samoan, Micronesian, Tongan, if you are from the Pacific Islander community and you are looking for support through exploring with coaching, you got to hit me up. Don't stay alone. Don't let fear stop you. Let's just have a conversation. I had one with Nan last week, and it's those connections that I know fuel me. And then we just see what happens. Let's just start with hello. That's it.
Yeah.
Hello, how are you? That's good. So please don't stay alone in that thought or that inkling. Like I feel like I would love to talk to someone about it. You should reach out and you deserve to.
And it's Mental
That's
Health Awareness Month too.
it is. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, you're right, Nan. I love
So,
that.
so
Yeah.
much to celebrate.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
So again, thank you so much, Bev, for being here. You've been nothing but a ray of sunshine. You just have this amazing energy around you, and I appreciate you being here with us. And I hope to, not just this time, I hope to have you back again because there was so much to learn. Still a lot that we still have not covered. But I feel like it's an opportunity, just a good start, and taking your time out with the community, and that's what Dear Sunga is for. And so, to everyone in the audience, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. And so, with the Lo-Fi Mana, we leave you there.